How's it going? Once again, time to catch up with Shelton School District Superintendent Wyeth. Jessee, how are you?
Doing great, Jeff.
I was at an EDC conference this week, Innovation and Expo. We talked about the 5 counties, Mason, Lewis, Thurston Pacific, and Grays Harbor. It was kind of an add-on to a previous conference I went to, the Future of Work Summit. It's all very exciting, and a lot of times when these businesses are looking to make roots in a community, the school district is one of the first things people look for. And they try to determine, is it a good fit for the family of the CEO, the workers, and how that goes. When you are talking with the EDC or other partners, and you explain to them what's happening in the Shelton School District to go out and talk to these other businesses, what are some of the things you guys talk about?
Yeah. Well, first, I just want to say that schools and public schools are the center of communities, and the way, churches used to serve some of that, even the Grange halls back in the day. We, now in today's society, the way we're structured, obviously, faith-based places and organizations still draw in, but public schools serve the broader community more than anything else. So I love that topic. I always say that, public schools are the center of communities and they're an economic driver. So to your point of like, hey, people are looking for this, where's it's happening, how good are the schools? And it drives property values.
Yeah.
So all those things in place. And so what do you say to people to keep drawing them in and invest into their community, into the school district? And one just like Shelton I love the topic. Haven't lived in communities very much like Shelton. I'm always like, look, when you come here, we will know every student by story, strength, and need. It's something that we've really worked on with our staff. It's people have really digested it and really want to live it. Because when we know each student's story, strength, and need, through their family, and then just listening to the student and empowering them, then we are in a best position to serve them. And you can't kind of beat that, right? So we're not looking for kids to necessarily be formulaic and fit into our pathway. What are we doing in response, and how do we flex to meet the kids where they're at and to grow them so that they ultimately have options, when they graduate, both college and career. So that's really what it is that we're really striving for. That's our big message, and we live that value about knowing every student's story, strength, and need.
When it comes to the size of the Shelton School District based on other districts that you've been in, where does it fit size-wise? I mean, because you're talking about knowing each student, and I can only imagine in larger districts, that is a very difficult ask. But here in Shelton, there's 4,500 students or so across?
Yep, just about, yep. Yeah. So, and sometimes, people get thrown off by the size of school districts. So, having worked for the largest school district in the state for over a decade, I can tell you, yeah, sure, it might feel really large and people, cut it in half or, make them small districts. But I'm like, that's really on leadership. As a superintendent here, whether we had one school or if we have 8 schools, we have a job to make sure that we have the appropriate staffing, the proportionment of staffing out there. That's what they need to go do to know story, strength, and need. I've worked with other districts twice the size of this and 3 times the size of this. So those are kind of the size of districts that I've worked at. And you can do that there, and we absolutely can do it here. So it's not necessarily the size, it's really the culture that you're trying to create.
Okay. Yeah. And then when, back to when people are deciding to move here, I was just on Zillow this morning actually looking at houses, why not? And that is one of the main drivers. It shows you what elementary school your child will likely go to, then middle school, then high school. And when you go through each of the schools, I know they all have their unique footprint in the communities. What's that story like when you're in front of larger groups and you're telling them about the Shelton School District, that there is opportunity for everybody, and every school has its unique place in the community?
Yeah, so ever since the even before the internet, even before things that were put out there on, rating systems or social media, people word of mouth about schools and how good they are or what's going on for them. Boy, it's really latent. So it's really like this, how something gets labeled a school or a school district. Usually that information is way out of date.
Sure.
The rumor mill, the beliefs that hang out there, schools can change in a hurry for the positive and the negative. So I'm always one to be realistic, try to be realistic as possible, because for the Shelton School District, we're not the same district we were just 5 years ago.
Right.
And so, there's a lot of stories I hear, Jeff. Oh yeah, when I was in high school, boy, I tell you, it was rough to go to,
Sure.
a sporting event, and I go, well, we're not the same school district decades ago, let alone just
Right.
like I said, 5 years ago. And the thing I tell families when they come here is I say, here's what we're up to. We're really stressing reading. We got books. We're really highly invested in it. We want to have obviously college and career readiness. We want a safe and welcoming environment. We work really hard on it. And I said, well, those are words and you know what we're focused on. I want you to go see the schools. I always try to get the families to, with their student, do a walkthrough. Go check out the school, what's going on there, get a sense for yourself. I think most people can sense when they walk into a school if that feels like a warm, welcoming environment where their student can fit in and learn. And that's probably the most powerful thing they can do, in addition to knowing what we're focused on and what we're trying to do, so they can go see how is those initiatives, what is in your strategic plan, are you doing that, and what would that mean for my own child? That works really well because that's today's information. Doing that walkthrough, talking to the staff and other students so that you can see it. You're a parent, and you can make your own judgment on it.
When it comes to COVID in these last few years, I know the volunteerism obviously you couldn't do it because of health concerns and things like that. Now that we're getting back into the opportunities for parents in the classroom, how much does that help dispel some of those rumors? I know what you're talking about. Oh, the high school I went to 20 years ago, it was a rough place. Well, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
The likelihood that anybody is still there from that time is zero. You've got these new strategic plans. OSPI keeps coming up with ideas and ways for you to move things forward. How important is it for the parents, even the parents of elementary kids who may be just 5 to 7, 8 years outside of high school in some cases, how things have changed and how they can get involved?
Yeah, well, first of all, what we're doing here is really trying to, again, center ourselves out where students are at and really engage them. So there's a lot of like these detailed things that are happening with our staff so that we can really change what's going on in the classroom. That's where the magic happens, right? And so if we can change that environment, that we are really, when the kids come in, they're engaged right now. We got a do now task, what it is, get the kid ready to go, have a mini lesson so that we're not just lecturing to them for 15 minutes. I'm pretty sure most of the people listening to this will go, I remember most certainly having to sit through a lot of long lessons.
Yeah.
Early in elementary, all the way through, bored to death. Absolutely, we are working to counter that so that we're not relying on worksheets, that we're actually engaging the kids and empowering their voice, that we're cutting down the skills so that they're digestible chunks every single lesson. So that again, that it's like 10 to 15 minutes at max.
Okay.
And so what's the skill? And then empowering the student to go practice that skill in the most authentic way we can. So whether that's out job shadowing at a site, whether that's engaging in a book that they've selected, whether that's let's get into other books and in readings about a particular content area, or that we're doing some more applied math. And so those are things that really are attractive to the students. And if they're attractive to the students, that's going to be really a good sell for the families. And the sense, like you said, like somebody graduated just even 8 years ago, I'd say, hey, we're really changing what that looks like across the classrooms here in the Shelton School District so that they're truly engaged and they're building their skills so that they can be ready for the world out there that is highly competitive.
What would you say to a parent who says schools these days are focused less on the hard skills, the hard sciences and maths, and more looking at how little Johnny is feeling today. Is it this case where it's the same size of a pie, and so now something is being taken away, or is it just being added into the mix? If you know what I'm talking about.
Sure. We call it a whole child approach, right?
And when did that kind of come about? Because that is, I think, for some people listening, that could be a brand new.
That could be a brand new thing for some, and some people are absolutely like, oh yeah, I've heard that, right? Like that's been around. It's probably a catchphrase that kind of caught on about 10 years ago, where I think it originated. The state, as you mentioned, has social emotional learning standards that we are to teach, and that we've obviously implemented here in the Shelton School District. But your question is really about like, so how does that work, right? So you've got character building, and about being citizens, the soft skills, as some people might call some things, about getting along with people in groups. And then you got the core content areas. And for us, the best way to do it is to, again, make it authentic and it's integrated. I don't like canned curriculums. I don't like big published text. It's not real world. Turn to page 42 and let's read along together.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to cause a whole lot of excitement usually on that. So like instead, hey, let's have advisory and let's get in a group and let's talk about some issues, some things that are going on for folks. You're like, yeah, hey, I got some friends that are vaping, or hey, let's talk about bullying. What's going on? What is bullying versus bad, friendship skills? And I think that's where that is able to come out, because there are issues that are of interest to the students. That means way more easier to engage them. And then it's also just within like, hey, all sorts of topics, through the content is where you can embed those activities, group projects. What a great opportunity as a former special education teacher, having to teach social skills a lot. I'm like, I loved to get my kids involved and push into the classroom where they're pushing themselves to grow as human beings and not just on content, right? When you're in physical education and you're grouped off and you're doing some cool group, that's going to push some kids in some ways that you have to learn some new social skills. That's why we always like to tell them, get your kids involved in clubs and activities and sports afterwards, because they're going to build their leadership skills. They're going to build how to, when things get tough, what do you do? Are you going to persevere? Are you going to fold the tent,
Yeah.
And, on your path to pushing yourself, you learn more about yourself and you gain the confidence. And so, and how to address challenges or conflicts with others. So, those are things that, as you learn along, whether you're an FFA or you're in DECA or you're, on the wrestling team. It doesn't matter, right? So that you have those opportunities outside of class and inside class.
And those skills are being taught early on in the kindergarten, first, second, third levels.
Preschool and up.
Building on.
Absolutely. And preschool is a great place. Boy, especially for any of your listeners out there with young kids, preschool is super powerful. How to just navigate a school day, if you think about it. Wait, I got to sit somewhere and like get along with 20 other kids in my classroom, and how do I ask for something and not have my mom or dad right there?
Right,
It's like,
right.
Preschool is super powerful, just how to navigate around other kids. So yeah, earlier the better.
It's a good time here as we wrap up this calendar year. The school year, of course, still has a half to go, but it's a good time to reflect on where the school district has been, and there has been, quite a rocky road over these last 4 or 5 years with the COVID pandemic. But as you can see here and learn through the Shelton School District, that there are leaps and bounds being made to address the whole child and to help get those skills moving on and out of the high school at the Shelton School District. Superintendent Wyeth, Jessee, again, thank you so much, sir.
Thanks so much, Jeff.